Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today we're trying something ambitious. We're aiming for a kind of sacred shortcut.
hmm Straight into a pretty complex philosophy.
Exactly. We're doing an intensive exploration of Suddhadvaita Shaiva Siddhanta. That's the pristine, non-dualistic final accomplishment philosophy.
It's a huge field, really. It draws on ancient Vedic and agamic stuff. But for this deep dive, we're focusing sharply on just one person.
Right. A pivotal figure from the 13th century who, well, basically took this vast system and gave it a crystal clear structure. Sri Meikandar.
That's the one.
So our mission for you, the listener, is, well, simple, but maybe a bit challenging. We're bringing together sources on his life, his pretty amazing lineage, and the structure of his masterpiece, the Sivajnana Bodham.
The goal is for you to get a rapid but still thorough grasp of the core ideas, the whole theological universe, in miniature almost.
And it really starts with who he was, his identity. Sri Meikandar. The name itself means something, doesn't it?
It does. Meikandar, the truth seer. It's not just a nice title, it's like his job description. Confirms his whole purpose.
And he's obviously central. The sources talk about this big annual festival, the Guru Pujai Aratana Mahotsavam.
Yeah, a huge celebration. It shows his importance.
They even specify the timing down to the stars. It's in the Tamil month Aipasi, or Tula, so mid-October to mid-November.
That's right. And specifically on the day of the Svati Nakatra.
Arcturus asterism day. That astronomical precision, it really highlights how significant his arrival was considered.
It really does. You know, in the history of this tradition, Meikandar is seen as the first and foremost, the absolute starting point for the lineage gurus, the Santa Guruvarga.
So he marked a shift.
A big one. He shifted things from, say, purely devotional poetry toward systematic intellectual knowledge. He defined non-dualism in a way that offered a precise map to getting to that final realization.
Okay, let's unpack the man himself then, the truth seer's origin story. Because it starts, interestingly, not with him, but with a prophecy, a very specific one.
Right, so we know he's 13th century CE. His birth name wasn't Meikandar, it was Shri Suvataba Paruma.
Which means the sacred bleaching lord. That's quite evocative.
It is. He was the son of Tiru Akudaka Apar, who was a very devout Orthodox Shaiva living in Tuapan Kanam near Tirumupai.
And there was an issue? His father didn't have an heir?
Exactly. Common problem, but, critical back then for a respected family. He was childless for a long time, so naturally he went to his spiritual guide, his Kula Guru.
His clam guru. And who was that?
That was Surya Arutanti Dovar. And this wasn't just any guru. He had this incredible title, Kakalagama Paintar.
Scholar of all Agamas. Wow.
Yeah, scholar of all the foundational sacred texts. So consulting him was like going to the ultimate authority on sacred knowledge.
Okay. And what did this master scholar advise? Did he use logic?
No, interestingly, he used a very specific ritual for divine guidance. It's called Kayokadatal.
Rope pulling. That
Yeah.
sounds almost random, like a sacred lottery, as you said before. How did it work?
Well, it's seen as a Devika Tirkatartikanam, a divine prophecy ritual. They literally take a thread, or a small rope, and place it, seemingly at random, somewhere inside the Pairu Tirimulaika.
The 12 sacred scriptures.
Right. And the verse the thread lands on, that's taken as the direct, undeniable answer from the divine.
That's quite a method. So, which verse came up?
It was a Doverum verse by the famous Saint Tirenia Kampantar, and it was incredibly specific in what it promised.
What did it say?
It basically promised protection and purification.
Yeah.
It said devils will not approach people, or they'd leave if they were already there. And crucially, it promised people would get their issue in mind.
The child they wanted.
Exactly. The child.
But the thing that jumps out at me is the condition. It wasn't just a promise. It was linked to doing something specific.
Precisely. It grounded the divine promise in a physical act. It said, sins will not afflict those who bathe in the water, the 3 tanks, and Venki of the Lord.
So the father had to perform this purification ritual in this specific place, Venki.
Right. It connects everything, even in the birth story. The child is granted, yes, but it requires the father to clear some kind of spiritual debt first through this act. It suggests the truth seer's arrival depended on overcoming past karma.
That sets up the tension right away, doesn't it? Between like worldly action, karma, and divine grace, tapas.
It really does.
So the child is born, Shri Suvatava Aparum, who was the one who saw his potential, who bridged that gap and recognized him as the future truth seer.
That was another key figure, Tiro Paranjyoti Munivar. His name means transcendent effulgent sage. He was the link, the bridge between the higher, subtler planes and, well, here on Earth.
Ah, okay. So he connected the divine insight to the physical person.
Exactly. It was Paranjyoti Munivar who actually initiated the young Sri Siddhanta. He saw his innate wisdom and gave him that defining title, Sri Meikandar, truth seer.
So that initiation was the turning point, from blessed child to visionary sage.
That's the moment his identity really shifts.
Okay, that whole origin story, from prophecy to initiation, it leads us nicely into the next big piece, the spiritual infrastructure, the lineage Meikandar was part of and then led.
Absolutely. You have
Yeah.
to see it in historical context.
Yeah.
Earlier you had the Samaya-Kudavarka figures like Apar, Makavasagar.
The great devotional poets and saints.
Right. They revolutionized the Bhakti Marga, the path of pure devotion, intense love for God. Meikandar and the gurus who followed him. They revolutionized the systematization of the philosophy itself.
Ah, so they took the heart, the devotion, and gave it a structure, a logical framework.
You could say that. They turned mystical insights into rigorous, systematic thought. And that became the meykaṇṭārs, the truth-revealing treatises.
And our sources lay out this lineage very clearly, the Santa Kudavarka.
Yes, the lineage gurus. And they're actually classified into two groups, 4 gurus in each. And the split isn't just names. It's about where they operate, their plane of existence.
Okay, let's start at the top. The source of the wisdom, the inner eternal preceptors, the Agakanta Kudavarga. This is the God tradition, Deva Parampara.
Exactly. These figures aren't, walking around on Earth. They operate from the highest, most subtle planes of consciousness. From Shivashkam, Shiva's world. Think Mount Kailash, Kailashvarvata, as the symbol.
So they are the eternal, non-physical source, pure knowledge transmission.
Pretty much. They exist in that state.
And the source lists the lineage, tracking how this wisdom comes down. It starts with Supreme Shiva, Paramasivan.
Then Shukanta Paramashiva,
Yeah.
Nandidova, Sanatkumar, Satyajnana Darshinikas, and then, crucially, that bridge figure again.
Parachitimo.
Right, the transcendent sage. He's the one who brings that inner divine wisdom out. He connects the God tradition to the next group.
Which is the outer eternal preceptors, the Purtakanta Kudavarga, the physical lineage.
Yes, the Buddha Parampara. These are the gurus operating right here on the terrestrial plane, Bhushka. They're the ones who actually wrote the key texts, established the school of thought for humanity.
What does it tell us, this idea of two planes, inner and outer, about how they viewed truth?
It's actually a really important insight into their whole approach. It means this philosophy, Siddhartha Shaiva Siddhanta, isn't just something humans thought up.
Ah, it's a revelation.
Right, it originates from the divine, from Kailash, basically.
Mm.
But then it needs human masters here on Earth to articulate it correctly, to systematize it so other people can grasp and use it. You need both, the divine source and the human structure.
And Meikandar is the founder of that human structure, who comes after him in that outer lineage, the other 3 key figures.
Okay, so first you have Meikandar himself. Then comes Shir Alunsantishivam.
Wait, Arutantijam, isn't that the same guru who did the rope-pulling prophecy for Meikandar's father? The Kakalagama Patieter?
The very same one. It's fascinating, isn't it? His role shifts completely. From being the claimed guru to Meikandar's father, he becomes Meikandar's student and direct successor.
That's incredible continuity. The guru who helps foresee the birth then learns from and follows the person whose birth he predicted.
It really highlights the strength and the integrity of the transmission chain. After Arukansi Shivam, you have Marayana Kampantar, and then the 4th is Umapati Shivam.
Those 4 form the bedrock then.
Absolutely. Meikandar, Arukansi Shivam, Marayana Kampantar, and Umapati Shivam. They are the definitive intellectual foundation, and the sources show huge reverence for them. You often find verses praising their revered lotus feet. It shows the structure they built is considered as sacred as the wisdom itself.
And that structure, that bedrock, it all starts with the text we need to really get into now. Meikandar's own major contribution, the Sivajnana Bodham, the awakening of auspicious wisdom.
Yes. And this text, it's just a marvel of packing huge ideas into a tiny space. It's not some long, rambling scripture. It's described as a concisely short metaphysical treatise.
How concise.
Just 12 aphorisms, 12 short verses, called Nupa. That's it.
12 verses for an entire philosophy. That's unbelievable. The structure must be incredibly tight.
Oh, it is. Highly systematic, clearly designed for serious study, both academic and spiritual. It's split into two main parts, general and specific.
Okay.
And then those are broken down into 4 chapters. They map out the whole journey, really.
What are the chapters?
First is logic, prenamon, then definition, ilakinsum, then practice, vidiskekadem, and finally the result, pailel.
Logic, definition, practice, result. Makes sense.
And even within those, it's divided further into 39 subsections called atikaram. It's incredibly dense, like a philosophical diamond, as you put it earlier.
That density must be why it's so revered. You mentioned a comparison in the sources, something about the Tiruku.
Right. There's this verse that praises the Tiruku, the famous ethical text, for being concise and sweet. But then it says that Sivajnana Bodham is even more concise and fruitful in benefit.
More beneficial than the Tiruku. Why? The Tiruku is about how to live a good life, right, Dharma?
Exactly. And that's hugely important. But the Sivajnana Bodham aims higher in their view. It offers the path out of the cycle of birth and death altogether. It's about moksha, final liberation.
Ah, okay. So it provides the blueprint for realizing the ultimate truth. And in the system, that's seen as the highest possible benefit.
That's the idea. The most fruitful benefit of any knowledge.
And that entire philosophy, that ultimate truth, is all contained in understanding what the text calls the mup porum, the triple reality.
Yes. Pati, Pashem, and Pashem. God, soul, and bondage. These 3 are seen as eternally real, coexisting entities. The whole system is about understanding their relationship.
Okay, let's break them down. Start with Pashi, the Lord God. Parmasivan, Supreme Shiva. The sources define him first as the cause of everything.
That's the logical starting point. Look at the universe, he, she, and it, as the text puts it simply. It clearly undergoes changes. Origin, development, decay. 3 changes.
Right. Observable fact.
Since the universe is an effect, it must have a cause, an agent. That agent is Hara or Shiva. He performs the samharam, the dissolution or decay, and then he recreates everything again.
Why? Why the cycle?
For the sake of the souls, to give them chances to work through their karma and eventually attain liberation.
Okay, so he's the efficient cause. Now, this is where we hit that defining concept. So Advaita Siddhanta's take on Advaita, non-dualism, usually that means total oneness, right? But here it's more complex. 3 terms describing the relationship with the soul at once.
Yes, and this is the subtle genius of it. It deliberately avoids pure monism, saying God and soul are absolutely identical, and it also avoids pure dualism, saying they're totally separate.
So what are the 3 terms?
The Lord is described as one with the souls, abada, different from them, bada, and this is the crucial one, and different from them, bada.
One and different, fadavta. Why is that so important? If the goal is union, why maintain difference?
It's a clever solution to a theological problem. Think about it. If the soul was absolutely one with God, of food, then the soul's imperfections, its mala or impurity, its suffering, well, that would have to affect God too, which is impossible by definition.
Okay, makes sense. God has to be perfect.
But if the soul was absolutely different, Pora, completely separate, then how could they ever truly unite? How could Sayuja, the final union, be possible?
Right. Total separation prevents merging.
So Wadabada, one and different, allows for both. It allows for a complete, intimate union, but the soul retains just enough of its distinct identity to actually experience and enjoy the bliss of that union with God. It's not just dissolved into nothingness.
Like gold in a gold necklace. Same substance, Buddha, but distinct forms, Buddha.
That's a very good analogy, yes. And this special kind of inherent union is called samavaya union. God maintains this with his jnana sakti, his innate power or consciousness.
And through that power, he runs the whole cosmic show.
Pretty much. Orchestrates the cycles of birth, death, rebirth, all guided strictly by the karma, the accumulated actions, good and bad of each individual soul. It's not arbitrary. It's perfect justice playing out.
And all the while, he himself remains untouched, pure. This leads to that specific term used for God's nature. Siva Sat, or Jit Sat. What does that mean?
Okay, this is a bit deep philosophically. The text divides reality into asat, the changing temporary world we perceive with our senses, and sad, pure, unchanging reality, which is God.
Right. Temporary versus eternal.
But here's the problem. The soul perceives the world asat. If God could be perceived in the same way, like an object, wouldn't that make him asat too? Changeable, limited.
Ah, I see. Perceiving something makes it part of the changing world.
Exactly. But if God is totally imperceivable, then he might as well not exist for the soul, right? How can you relate to something utterly beyond perception?
So, he can't be perceived like the world, but he can't be totally imperceptible either.
Precisely. So the solution is to say God is neither. He's not the asat world, and he's not non-existence. Therefore, he's called Sivasat or Chitsat, the reality that is realized as different from both the perceived world and non-existence. You can't grasp him with senses or intellect alone. He has to be known through his grace.
That's subtle. The analogy they use helps make it more concrete, doesn't it? The magnet one.
Yeah, it's very effective. Shiva leads the soul, the conscious self, just like a magnet attracts and moves a piece of iron.
Okay.
But the crucial point is, while the magnet causes the iron to move, the magnet itself doesn't move or change in the process. Similarly, Shiva guides souls through the universe, but he remains absolutely immovable, unchangeable, and completely unaffected by it all.
Got it. Okay, that covers Pati. Now let's move to the second entity, Paji, the soul, the Anma, the conscious self that's being guided. Since the soul isn't physical, how does the Sivajnana Bodham argue that it even exists separately from the body or mind?
Meikandar's text offers 5 arguments, all based on common human experience. First, the simple fact that the conscious self constantly distinguishes itself from the body. We say, I am not this hand, I am not this foot. The soul defines itself by negating the physical.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second argument?
Possession. We say, my body, my senses, my mind. That word my implies an owner, an I, that is separate from the things that possesses the body, the senses, etc.
The I is the owner, the body is the own. Got it. Third.
Dreams, the avasta. Even when your physical senses are shut down during sleep, the soul is still conscious, having experiences in a dream world. This shows the soul's consciousness isn't totally dependent on the waking world senses, the indriya.
Right. Consciousness persists even when the body's inputs change. Fourth argument.
Deep sleep. When you're in deep, dreamless sleep, there's no feeling, no pain, no thought, nothing. But when you wake up, you know you were there. You existed through that time. The soul's existence continues even when mind and body are totally suspended. So the soul can't be just the mind or just the body.
And the fifth point brings it back to knowledge.
Yes, the soul learns. It knows things because others teach it, or it experiences things. If the soul were inherently divine or pure consciousness, it would already know everything, right? It would be omniscient.
Ah, because it needs to learn, it proves it's a distinct entity that starts off limited.
Exactly. It's a knowable entity that begins in ignorance.
So those 5 arguments establish the soul exists and is unique. And the text calls its nature satasat. What does that mean?
Satasat captures the soul's unique position between the 2 other realities. It's the knower of both Siva, who is Sat, pure reality, and the world, which is Asat, changing reality.
So it bridges the gap.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
Because it can be influenced by both. It desires the permanent Sat, but gets caught up in the temporary Asat. It must be different from both. It's not purely divine and it's not purely material. It's this intermediary reality.
Which means it has the potential to move from being bound by the Asat world towards realizing the Sat God.
That's its potential, yes.
And how does it interact with the world? Through the senses, the indriya.
Right. And the source gives a really clear analogy for this relationship. It says, the soul enables the eye to see, and the soul itself sees through the eye.
Okay.
Then in parallel, Hara, God, enables the soul to know, and Hara himself knows through the soul, in a way.
It's like a nested dependency. The I needs the soul needs God.
Exactly. It shows the soul isn't just passive, it's an active knower. But its ability to know ultimately depends on God's grace, God's enabling power.
Okay, that makes sense. Which leads us to the third part of the trio, Pasham, the bondage. This is the stuff that limits the soul and keeps it from knowing Pati perfectly.
Right. Pasham is the whole complex of things that bind the soul, the pashu. It's usually broken down into 3 main parts. Mala, which is like primal dark ignorance, Maya, the world machine or cosmic illusion, and karma, our actions and their consequences.
And the text seems to focus a lot on Mala, especially Anavama.
Yes, Anavamala is considered the root impurity. It's this inherent limitation, this primal darkness or ignorance that clouds the soul's true nature from the very beginning. When the soul is just with Anavamala, it's basically unconscious, or its consciousness is completely obscured.
So how does it start to function at all?
It only begins to experience the world and think when it connects with the anakarna, the inner faculties, like mind, intellect, ego. The text uses an analogy, like a king who only understands his kingdom through his ministers. The soul only understands reality through these faculties, initially.
And it gets trapped.
Yeah, trapped living among the savages of the 5 senses, as the text vividly puts it. Completely caught up in the feedback loop of sensory experience, mistaking that for ultimate reality.
So if the soul is naturally bound like this, how does the Sivajnana Bodham lay out the escape route? The path to liberation, breaking the passion.
It starts with grace, but grace that's earned, in a sense. The text says when the soul makes progress in tapas, which means virtue, spiritual discipline, seeking knowledge, then the Lord, Pati, does something amazing.
What's that?
He appears not just as distant, transcendent God, but as a tangible teaching guru.
God comes down in the form of a teacher.
Exactly, to teach the soul directly how to get out of the mess it's in. The guru shows the soul that it's been wasting itself among the senses, mistaking the world's illusions for truth.
And receiving that teaching, really getting it, is the first big step.
It's the crucial first step,
Right.
recognizing its real nature, understanding, okay, I'm not God sad, and I'm not just the world sad, I am the knower, Sata sad.
So once the soul gets that, I am the knower, what's the next practical step towards liberation?
The final state is reached by consciously abandoning those old companions, the five senses and the whole mirage of worldly existence. The goal is complete union with God's feet, achieving Ekya, oneness with Siva.
And because the soul has this inherent satasat nature.
It's capable of becoming one with him. It essentially attains his state of being.
But again, this isn't becoming nothing, right? It's not total annihilation of the soul's identity.
No, crucially it's not. It's based on that Advaita principle, specifically Vedabada. When the soul is liberated, it experiences all its actions as his actions, all its reality as his reality. The union is so profound that the power of its own mala, maya, and karma is basically nullified.
So it becomes one with Shiva.
But it retains its consciousness, its ability to enjoy that state of perfect union. That's why the difference part of one and different is maintained even in liberation.
That makes sense. The philosophy makes sure this isn't just some abstract goal, though. There are practical things people should do day to day, aren't there? What does Meikandar say about practice?
Yes, the practical side is very concrete. Two main things. First, constant contemplation of the Panyakara.
The 5 sacred syllables. Namah Shivaya.
Right. Contemplating them according to the proper method, shifting the focus away from the self, pashu, and bondage pasham, towards God pati.
And the second practice involves other people.
Yes, association. This is vital. To help wash off the lingering stains of mala, the seeker needs to associate with bhaktas. These are the devotees, the jivan muktas souls, who are already liberated but still living in a body.
People whose souls abound with love, as the text says.
Exactly. Being around them, their spiritual clarity and purity kind of rubs off. And beyond just associating with them, the seeker should also contemplate their forms and the forms in temples, seeing them all as manifestations of God's form.
So it's a mix of internal contemplation, the mantra, and external actions, association, temple worship.
Fused together, internal contemplation and external devotion.
That 12-verse text really does seem to pack in a whole universe, but inevitably with ancient, important texts, there's some scholarly debate, right? We should probably touch on the controversy about the Sivajnana Bodham's origins.
Yes, we definitely should. It's a fairly specialized academic point, but it's significant. Was the text originally written in Sanskrit, or was the Tamil version the first? It matters because it affects the perceived authority and age of the whole school of thought.
Okay, let's look at the first position, position A. The idea that the Sanskrit version came first.
Right. Scholars holding this view think the Sanskrit Sivajnana Bodha is the older original. Their main argument is that it's supposed to be part of a much older text, the Dhamma.
One of the foundational Shaiva scriptures.
Exactly. Specifically, they claim it's from the Pachavimukhanapala section, the part about releasing bondage. So in this view, Meikandar was essentially an incredibly brilliant translator and summarizer. He took this ancient Sanskrit scripture and condensed it into his 12 perfect Tamil verses.
Okay, but then there's position B, arguing strongly the other way around. Tamil first.
Yes. These scholars argue Meikandar's Tamil Sivajnana Bodham is the original work of genius. They believe the Sanskrit text is actually a later, independent translation into Sanskrit.
Created maybe to give Meikandar's Tamil work the authority of Sanskrit.
That's the implication. They often deny it's genuinely part of the Rauravagama at all, seeing it as an attempt to fit this revolutionary Tamil philosophy into the established Sanskrit canon after the fact.
It's a serious debate. So, staying impartial, what can we definitively say about the text's function, whichever language came first?
Well, regardless of the origin debate, what's undeniable is the Sivajnana Bodham's role in either language as the ultimate summary. Both versions brilliantly provide a concise, unified overview of the Vidyapada, the knowledge sections of a vast collection of Shaiva scriptures known as the Aipasi Siddhanta Shaivagama Shastra.
The 28 Siddhanta scriptures.
Right. So those 12 verses by Meikandar, they are without doubt the shortcut to understanding the core teachings of that entire massive body of work.
So it's not just a text, it's the cornerstone. It launched a whole intellectual movement around itself.
Absolutely. It's the heart, but it's technically just one part of a larger collection, the Patikameka Shastra.
The 14 truth-revealing treatises. 14 texts to establish the philosophy. That seems like a lot springing from just 12 initial verses. What did these other texts need to do?
Well, Meikandar laid out the core thesis, right? The aphorisms are incredibly dense. The subsequent texts were needed to elaborate, explain, defend, and provide more detailed practical guidance. His successors built out the full system based on his foundation.
Okay, so who wrote these other key texts? Were there important ones even before Meikandar?
There were texts that sort of set the stage. We have the Tiruvundiyar with 45 verses by Tiruvilluya Vantatova Nayar, and the Tirukopachir 100 verses by Tirukavuya Vantatova Nayar. These helped shape the philosophical climate.
But the really big contributions came from Meikandar's direct successor in that outer lineage, Arichanti Shivakaryar.
Yes, Arichanti Shivakaryar's work is monumental. He wrote the Sivajnana Bodham. This isn't just a commentary, it's a massive poetic elaboration, a full philosophical defense and expansion of Meikandar's 12 points. It really cemented the doctrine's intellectual standing.
And then the fourth guru in that line, Umapati Shivakaryar, he added even more.
A huge amount. Umapati Shivakaryar wrote another major commentary, the Siva Pirakasam Splendor of Shiva. But he didn't stop there. He wrote at least 6 other important texts covering specific aspects of practice and devotion.
Right.
Things like the Tiruropaya, Fruit to Divine Grace, Vina Venpai, Questions and Answers, Pisipaa Praise Series, Kokavi, Flag Song, Niyu of Ututu, Heart as Messenger, and Umainiviyakam, Illumination of the True Path. Plus a major work called Sakarpaniya Karanyam, which systematically argued against other competing philosophies.
Wow, that sheer volume. It really shows Meikandar didn't just write a text, he ignited something. An intellectual revolution that needed generations to fully build out, teach, and defend.
That's exactly it. And the tradition of deep scholarly engagement didn't stop there. It continued for centuries. We should probably mention the major later commentaries, just to show the text's lasting power.
Okay, on the Tamil side, there is Yogi Sri Madhava Shivajnana Muni.
Yes, a towering figure. He wrote the massive Sivajnana, the Grand Tamil commentary. It meticulously unpacks every single aphorism and subsection. He also did an abridged version, the Sivajnana Putaturai, to make it more accessible.
And keeping that parallel tradition going, there's a major Sanskrit commentary too.
Right. The Sivagrabhaya by Sivagrayogin. This deep intellectual lineage in both Tamil and Sanskrit proves that whichever path you take into this philosophy, Meikandar's Sivajnana Bodham is the absolute gateway.
The undisputed map.
The map to understanding Pati, Paishu, and Pasham.
Okay. We have covered a lot of ground today. We went from the very specific, almost prophetic origins of the truth seer, Sri Meikandar.
Through that deep, layered spiritual lineage, connecting the divine realm of Kailash right down to earth.
And we really dove into the logic and structure of his 12-verse masterpiece, the Sivajnana Bodham. So hopefully you, the listener, now have that essential framework, the triple reality.
Pati, Supreme Shiva, the unchanging cause, the guiding magnet. Paishu, the conscious soul, the unique Sataset knower. And Paisham, that threefold bondage of ignorance, mala, world illusion, mayo, and action, karma.
So putting it all together, synthesizing these sources, what's the core takeaway? What's the absolute essence of Suddhavaita Shaiva Siddhanta that you should hold on to?
I think the core boils down to needing 2 things working together for liberation. First, Advaita knowledge, that deep philosophical understanding of the unity that still respects distinction.
The Hara idea.
Exactly. And second, undying love, Ayaratuba. Intense devotion. This philosophy isn't just about intellectually escaping the world. It's about entering into this perfected, unified state with Siva, a state the conscious soul actively enjoys forever.
Knowledge and love. Okay. Now, here's something really interesting that ties a lot of this together. The lineage, the text, the goal. The source material makes the specific claim about what the Sivajnana Bodham summarizes.
Yes, that's a crucial point. It says the text synthesizes 2 different types of Shaiva Agama scriptures at the same time.
What are the 2 types?
There are 10 agamas that are said to establish the doctrine of pure difference between God, soul, and world. These are linked to the Sadashiva form. And then there are 18 gamas that establish the doctrine of difference cum non-difference linked to the Rudra form.
So one set emphasizes separation, the other emphasizes connection within separation.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Different philosophical emphases within the broader Shaiva tradition.
And Meikandār's text is specifically designed to bring these two seemingly distinct viewpoints together into one cohesive system, a system aiming for final realization.
That's what the sources suggest, yes, a grand synthesis.
So that raises a really interesting final question for you, the listener, to think about. If this ultimate wisdom text, the Sivajnana Bodham, is built on harmonizing doctrinal difference, the two types of agamas, with the goal of experiential unity, oneness with Shiva.
What does that necessary harmony tell us about the nature of wisdom itself? Maybe true wisdom isn't about picking one side, one philosophical stance, but about finding a way to successfully integrate, to live within the synthesis of seemingly opposing truths.
Finding the truth that holds both sides of the coin. Definitely something to ponder as you continue to think about the legacy of the truth seer.